Welcome back to another show. We all just got finished watching the Caps get their asses kicked by Carolina Hurricanes, so we're going to talk football instead. We just came out of the owners' meetings this week. There were some new rule changes in place, a little bit of scheduling stuff, and we'll get into that. But first and foremost, we're going to stick with news about Washington directly. And during the owners' meetings, Dan Quinn came out and he said that Brandon Coleman was going to be moved to the right-hand side of the line, and that he and Andrew Wiley would battle it out at training camp to be the right tackle, with the assumption that the loser of that battle becomes the right guard until Cosmi comes back. So that kind of, I don't want to say cements the offensive line, but we talked about this before about the different possible scenarios after they made their big trade for Tunsil and bringing him into left tackle and how that would move Coleman. So, Joe, we'll go to you first. What do you think about that, about Coleman being moved to the right and possibly playing right tackle or right guard with Wiley playing the other position?
Sure. Man, I don't know.
So you feel strongly about it, I can tell.
Yeah, let's go.
Joe, ever the optimist, is right there.
We'll see how it goes, I guess. I'm seeing a lot of good things about Tinsel, right? That's his name?
Tunsil.
Not
Tinsel like you put on a Christmas tree, but Tunsil.
Well, okay. But I'm hearing good things about him, even though we're talking about him before, and
okay,
he was pretty expensive. So hopefully he does his job, and whatever moves we make are obviously going to protect Jaden. That's what we need to do.
Right.
We need to protect him. We need to open up holes for, our run game.
Okay.
So I don't follow the individual linemen. So.
All right. Mike, you got?
I know who to blame. I know who to yell at when they don't do their job, but when they are doing their job, it's like, hey, you're just quiet on it. It's like, yes, okay, sure.
Right. Okay, Mike, you got anything you want to add?
No, I think that's
too difficult.
Pretty much what we had talked about when we talked about the Tunsil in the first place, is we thought would happen. So I'm not really surprised by it.
Right.
I think when we talked about it, and I could be misremembering, but I kind of thought Coleman was going to automatically slot into that right tackle, and then Wiley would slide over to the guard while Cosmi's out. So I'm, I guess, a little surprised that they're competing for it, but it makes sense. So, but other than that, I mean, it's kind of what we expected to happen.
Right. Though there was some talk that he would move to left guard, which was a possibility all along for him if tackle didn't work out, as he would be put at left guard. Okay. Because remember when he was drafted, that was the whole talk of. I think he played mostly guard in college, but they thought he could play tackle, and it was kind of like what they did with Brandon Sheriff years ago when they drafted him with the hopes that he could play tackle, but he couldn't, so they put him at guard. It worked out pretty well for the team. They did the same thing with Coleman. They hoped he could play tackle. He did pretty decently last year. Obviously not an all-pro or anything like that, but he had a good season for a rookie. And I guess they're hoping is that if they can put him over at right tackle, then there's not as much pressure on him, and he can, that if you can go Tunsil, Allegretti, Biadish, Cosmi when he comes back, and Coleman, that's a pretty solid line. But of course, we don't know when Coleman's coming back, so we wait and see. Of course, everybody wanted Andrew Wiley cut. I think last year they thought he'd be a cap casualty, but I guess he gets to stick around for another year. So, but I think that's all the real player news from this week. No new signings, at least that I can remember, which means there was probably 10 for all I know.
I saw there's a couple of disgruntled defensive ends that are getting thrown around as rumors that we may try to trade for him.
Like Hendrickson from Cincinnati?
Yeah, I saw his name today. I guess he was on an interview, and he was talking about what was said about him last week and how things aren't going as smoothly as he had hoped. And then you got all the talk going on down in Dallas with Micah.
Right.
Same type of thing. Jerry Jones is like, I don't even know who your representation is. So,
Well, Jerry's a little old, so he doesn't always remember things.
yeah, no.
Yeah,
So who knows? Maybe we'll make a move for one of those two guys. I don't think so. I mean,
we won't.
we don't have any more draft picks to give away.
Well, then that's the thing. Hendrickson is in the last year of his contract. Since Cincinnati's going to want a first round pick, and probably at least a second round pick, and probably a player to go with that to trade for him, and to sign him would be way more than I think Washington would want to spend at this point for that position.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's going to happen. And Parsons, he's not going to be traded this year. They'll ride it out. They'll figure out a way to sign him and keep him in Dallas. I don't think he's going to go anywhere. They're certainly not going to trade him.
No.
All right. Well, so we took care of that. So one of the other things that came out of the meetings was there's going to be a triple header on Christmas Day. I guess the NFL wants to be like the NBA and have a bunch of games on Christmas, because God forbid you spend time with your family on Christmas or something like that. And no, not spending time with your family watching football, because that never happens. But the interesting thing for me, of having a triple header on Christmas, I guess Christmas is on a Thursday this year. And so automatically Amazon Prime gets a game. They get they keep their Thursday night game or their Thursday game. The other two games are going on Netflix. So, I don't have either one of those services right now. So that would, I would have a football free Christmas unless I want to start shelling out money. So I'm not real happy about that. Of course, I'm not happy with all the sports leagues having 17 different venues that you have to go through or pay for to watch games. But I understand why the league does it. It's money. But do you guys care one way or the other about having 3 games on? I mean, we have 3 games now on Thanksgiving, and we have for a couple of years. What do you think about 3 games on Christmas and the fact that they're all on extra, they're on, in essence, pay TV, as opposed to Thanksgiving where the games are always on free TV? Mike, we'll go to you first, I guess.
I mean, I don't know.
Do you care?
I don't think we need 3 games on Christmas. It feels like most people, like you said, I mean, not to be, cliche, but they do spend time with their family, and and I don't know, a full day of football on Christmas. I don't love it. I don't think it's necessary. The pay versus free thing. Yeah, I mean, look, I have Amazon Prime right now. I have Netflix. I don't like Netflix getting more games because, quite frankly, they keep raising their prices, and I want to get rid of them. So
Yeah.
I don't love that at all. But I do think it's weird that if you're going to run 3 games on Christmas, none of them are on network television. So you got to have the pay service for that. I think that's kind of messed up, honestly. At least let people watch that. Someone like you who has neither of those services, at least let you watch one of the games.
Right. Especially since I'm shelling out so much money for Sunday Ticket. I should get something out of that, but apparently not. Joe,
Well, they still, yeah, they still they will always show the local team on the local channel, right?
yes.
But yeah, I mean, putting it on all these pay services, it's unfortunate. It's a real piss off, really.
Yeah.
I understand why they're doing it, and for me personally, it's not that big of a deal because I do have them as just like Mike does, and the truth of the matter is this: when it comes to watching football, I don't have a lot of free time, so I'm lucky that I get to watch 1 game a week. So I focus on my game,
Right.
and so it doesn't really matter for me. It doesn't matter what day of the week it's on. I'm going to make time, that 3-hour block. I'm going to make the time for that game.
Sure.
And then when it comes to on Christmas and Thanksgiving, it's odd that they would do that to Christmas. Like, I guess you could with Thanksgiving, typically there's like one or two people that are like in the kitchen cooking the whole day, and then you just have the game on in the background. People kind of have something to hang around, have a beer with, watch a game
Right.
while food's being prepared. But at Christmas, it's not like that. I mean, usually Christmas, you're opening your presents and then you're playing with stuff or putting stuff together if you have kids, and
Yeah.
it's way more, family oriented. And so it's almost unfortunate, especially doing 3 games. One game, at nighttime, 8 o'clock, kids are in bed. Sure, that's great. But having, it'll probably be similar to Thanksgiving with like a 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 7 o'clock, or something like that.
Yeah,
And
like
just,
probably like a noon, 4 and 8.
yeah, it's too much.
Yeah.
And those, of course, are East Coast times. So
Yeah.
The correct time zone.
yeah. I for all the years I've been out here in California, I love setting an alarm on Saturdays and Sundays. I have to get up and watch football. I enjoy it. I enjoy it very, very much. Yeah, I mean, I canceled the service. I haven't had Amazon in years, and I cut out Netflix probably a year or two ago because I watched everything on there. So I don't pay for the services anymore, and I mean, I guess I could sign back up, but shelling out what I do for Sunday tickets so I can watch Washington, that puts a little dent in the wallet. So paying another $14 a month or whatever Netflix is nowadays, and Amazon is what, like $130 a year now or so. I don't know. I guess I'll figure it out and see. And if Washington's not playing, then maybe I won't worry about it too much on Christmas Day. But I would like to watch it. I mean, since I got nothing else to do on Christmas Day, since all the families on the other side of the country. It's not a woe is me. Families on the other side of the country. So, there's. I bitch about games being on Christmas, but I'm the person who would be sitting at home alone watching football. So there I go, having arguments with myself, and it's wonderful. Great talk, Rob.
The problem is when you take both sides of the argument, like.
Well, I try to be.
That's where you got.
I try to be fair.
There you go.
That's how he makes sure he wins every argument.
Right. I got a winner either way.
He's arguing only with himself, and he's taking both sides of it. He can't lose.
I was telling you, I've found a kink in the system. So the other things that, all right, so that's enough of that. Because next thing you know, we'll be talking about kickers or something. The next thing that came out of
Hey, did you hear? No.
The other things that came out of the owners meeting was some rule changes. And obviously we talked about some of this in the past, but now we know exactly what rules have been changed, what rules have been tabled, and for the rules that have been changed, what the rule changes are. So in no particular order, the overtime rules are now uniform between regular season and postseason, with the difference being in regular season, it's a 10-minute period. In the playoffs, it's a 15-minute period, but both teams will now have the opportunity to possess the ball in overtime, regardless of who wins the toss or anything like that. And I wonder, the thought process for overtime the last couple of years has obviously been, well, I think for overtime is if you win the toss, you take the ball. Like normally during the regular game, a vast majority of the teams now, if you win the toss, you defer to the second half, so you can receive the ball at the start of the second half and do that. In overtime, you always want the ball so you can go down and score and hopefully end the game. But now, knowing that both teams are going to have a chance to have possession, does that change your way of thinking going into overtime? If you win the coin toss, would you defer so that you have, if Washington's playing Philly and Washington wins the toss, do you let Philly to have the ball so you know what they've done, and maybe they kick a field goal and you now have a possession, and if you get a touchdown you win, or you can tie, a field goal tie? So what do you think about the rule change itself? And then what do you think about that second part of would you defer on the coin toss, or would you still want to take the ball first and go down and then put pressure on the other team to maybe have to not have as much time or that type of thing? So, Mike, let's go to you first on that.
So I agree with the rule change, like we talked about last week. Although it's interesting, I think the proposed rule was to also do 15 minutes for the regular season. Sounds like they only approved 10, or they're going with 10.
I thought it was 10. I mean, it might have been 15, but I thought it was 10. So, but
So-
either way, it's still the big thing was both teams having possession.
Well, so it is. So I totally agree with that. As far as deferring, here's where the 10 minutes versus 15 makes me potentially have a different strategy.
Okay.
If it's 15 minutes, I would probably defer, feeling confident that letting them have the ball first, they can't run a ton of time down. If it's only 10 minutes, and not that they're going to run 10 minutes down and score a touchdown necessarily, but I would just might be a little nervous about clock on that and how that could affect things. But outside of that part of it, I think, look, I guess I could still argue it both ways. One is
Hey, that's my job.
Well, so okay, defer, let the other team go first, and then if they only get a field goal, you know that depending on your situation, that if you have to settle for a field goal, you're at least keeping it tied, so you take some of the pressure off you.
Right.
But yeah, so I don't know. I think I'd probably lean towards deferring, so I know what I'm up against. Whereas, because if you get it first, you want to really try to get that touchdown. You might make different decisions and go for it, and not be as willing to settle for a field goal.
Okay. Joe, what you got?
I like the rule change. I think it's good that, eliminate confusion. We know what's going on, postseason and during the regular season, like we said last week. I think during the coin toss, it might be just how your momentum's going in the game that you make that decision. I know, if your defense is kicking ass, let them get out there and stop them.
Right.
And if your offense, if you made a huge comeback and come back to tie it up, and your offense is flying high and it's like they're on, maybe give them the ball first and let them keep it up. So I think you have to let the rest of the game, regular time game, determine how you play.
So case by case scenario.
I think, yeah, that's how I would treat it. I mean,
okay. So I come back to something that I raised previously, and that is if it's 10 minutes, and Mike, like you said, I don't think that someone's going to take a 10-minute drive or a 9-minute drive in overtime. Offenses are more quick strike nowadays, so I think it's more of 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 minutes at most. I come back to, again, we'll use a Washington-Philly scenario. Forget the coin toss for a second. Philly gets the ball, and they drive down, and they take 7 minutes. Or I don't care how long they take, actually. 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 7 minutes, 8 minutes, 9 minutes. It doesn't matter. Washington gets the ball, and they get a chance to finish their possession. Like the game clock becomes a non-issue at that point. And then they just finish their drive. If it ends with a field goal, touchdown, turnover on downs, whatever, then that's the final possession. Like they're not worried about the clock other than the play clock. So I think, I don't know if that's the right answer, but I in my head that makes sense to me, that like the way they do it in college is you start at the 25-yard line and you have a possession. There's no time other than the play clock. It's just a possession. You either score or you turn it over on downs, or you turn it over with the fumble or interception. I think that's maybe what the NFL should do, is say, screw the clock. Other than you could still have the 10-minute clock, because if Philly goes 3 and out, Washington goes 3 and out, okay, next possession wins, or next, first scorer wins at that point. we're still on a clock, but Washington should get a chance to have a full possession, or the second team should get a chance to have a full possession. I don't know that would be a very popular opinion, but that would be my thought. And if that was the case, then I would definitely defer. And I still think I would defer regardless. I mean, Joe, you're right. I mean, I can see the argument for case by case, but I'd always want the ball last, knowing what I need to do to win the game. So I would want to defer just the same way that I always said defer even before teams started doing it for the opening kickoff. So that's my thought. I want to see 2 full possessions at the very least, regardless of game clock, and I would defer on the coin toss, knowing that I'm going to get a possession regardless. Silence is approval. Thanks, guys. I appreciate that. All right, next one. So the touchbacks were moved to the 35-yard line. So if there's a touchback, then the ball gets placed at the 35-yard line. We talked a little bit about this last time about they're trying to encourage shorter kickoffs to encourage more returns. And my one issue with this, and it is actually something that someone else pointed out. Well, I saw two different people point this out online in slightly different variations. One is, if you're getting the ball at the 35-yard line to start with, that's Hail Mary range. We all know these quarterbacks can throw the ball 65 yards in the air. I would think all NFL quarterbacks could throw the ball 65 yards in the air. So you're already in Hail Mary range, which I don't really like, especially, we're talking about the end of the game, obviously. And then you're that much closer to a field goal. You need like 20 yards for a field goal, 25 yards for a field goal. I think it shortens the game too much in the critical situation. So I think I've always liked the touchback at the 20-yard line personally. I know that wasn't an option for this year, but I think you're moving it too far up. I think I realize they want the returns, but I think the 35-yard line is a mistake. Joe, what do you got? What do you think?
I like it. I like it at the 35. I like seeing the returns. I like the extra play. You don't know what's going to happen with the way with the way everyone's lining up. It seems like there's more holes for the return to get through. So it's like, I don't know. I mean,
well, don't get me wrong. I like the aspect of having more returns. I like a kickoff return. I like that a lot. I don't like the way they do it now at all. I wish they would go back to the way they did, where everyone lines up to your own 35 and you kick it from there and everybody runs down the field. I know that's not coming back, but right. I like the idea of the return because it can be a game-changing play.
Absolutely. I mean, you get another guy like another Devin Hester, like they had back in the day, and I mean, he was a game changer. Right. You will change the outcome of a game if you had a return like that. So it's awesome. So I do like that. Basically, they're kind of just threatening them, like, hey, if you do a touchback or it's going to the 35,
right?
Kick it. Give it to them. Let them run it back. Let them try and run it back. Let them try to get past your guys. So I like it. It's a little different than it was last year, so it'll be interesting to see how this changes the game. And wait and see, I guess.
Yeah, I like it too, and I get your point, Rob. That Hail Mary territory, but that's the point. Then don't kick it in the end zone. Kick right. It short, make them return it so that they're not getting it at the 35. So, it's not an automatic. So it's part of the game. I think it makes it more interesting than just booting it into the end zone and bringing it out and letting it go. So I like it, and I'll be curious to see.
I'm all for returns. I growing up watching Mike Nelms returning kicks was always a joy. And Joe, you're right. Devin Hester, if you have that guy, he wasn't this for Washington, but Desmond Howard, when he bounced around the league and ended up in Green Bay, was great at that. So yeah, it's the same thing with punt returns. I punt return, same thing. And I realized I didn't touch it. We're not talking about punt returns or any rule changes for that, but those plays, the special teams, that's what can change the course of a game. That can swing the momentum. And so, nothing better than you give up a touchdown and maybe the lead, and you come right back with the kickoff return for a touchdown to basically give an FU to the team. Is wonderful. And I wish there was more of it. So
except when it happens to us.
Yeah, that's the worst play ever.
Why the hell did we do that? Why'd you kick it to him?
There was probably a penalty that should have been called, but no, I do hope it leads to more kickoffs, but I don't like the new kickoff scenario. I mean, forget the touchback thing. I don't like the dynamic kickoff or whatever they call it. I still like the idea of everyone running down the field and that, because I think that's more exciting, but player safety and everything. So this is what we get. So we'll see what happens. I don't think it's a huge deal, grand scheme of things, but that's what it is. Next is so now they've for replay, there are a couple plays that were added that replay can review to overturn. And so these are the things that replay on its own can stop. I think they can do this on their own, can stop the play to review to overturn penalties. They can't use it to call penalties, but they can use it to overturn penalties. And the penalties that they can overturn are hitting a defenseless player, face mask, horse collar tackle, tripping, running into or roughing the kicker. Again, that's a play, not a position, so it's okay to talk about. So those are the plays that they could.
We're skirting a fine line here. We're talking a lot about kicking now. We just spent how much time on the kickoff. So, but okay, I'll let it go for now.
So yeah, because I guess tripping involves kicking as well. It's swinging of the leg usually, but so these are the penalties. Like if the penalty was called on the field and replay sees that it wasn't really a penalty, they could buzz down and say, no, sorry, that's not a penalty. The play stands as it was. So how much of this do we think is a big deal? Do we care? Do we think it'll change anything? I think people are usually more upset about missed penalties. He grabbed a face mask, but nobody called it, or there was holding on that play and that play and that play and that play and that play. No one called it. So is this just something that's not really going to have an effect on the game, or do we think it will have any effect at all? Joe, what you got?
I think it'll have a minor effect.
Okay.
The most important thing is that it's fast.
Yeah.
If the ref calls a penalty and then he gets radioed down, it's like, hey, it's not a penalty, pick up the flag. And he picks it up and says, never mind, moving forward. Wasn't a penalty, let's go. Yeah, just kidding. As long as it's fast, whatever it is. There's been a couple times where, it feels like the refs sometimes will self-govern a little bit. Like, I think it happened to us where we had a missed face mask.
Okay.
Or they called us for face masking, but he didn't touch the helmet at all.
Right.
They grabbed his shoulder. I think it was against Philly, actually. But then 2 plays later, there was an obvious, or not another unobvious penalty that they gave to us. So it was like one of those things where the refs were like kind of self-regulating, like, yeah, I let you get away with it this time and gave it back to him this time. We evened everything out. Everything's good.
But the makeup call.
Yeah, the makeup call. And, if you do this, then you're not going to get that makeup call, because if they throw the penalty and it's like, yeah, that really wasn't a penalty, you need to pick that one up, it could create its own issue. Okay. All I know is it needs to be fast.
Right.
It does, but what is their responsibility? And here's my question: like, does it come down to, and I don't know, maybe these are everything they have added this for can't be challenged, so maybe it's not an issue, but if these are things that a coach might otherwise challenge, do they hold off on challenging now, expecting that the refs, this instant replay or whatever, will catch it? And so it's kind of, whose responsibility does it become? And again, I don't, maybe these are all plays that aren't challengeable.
Well, they can't challenge penalties at all, can they?
Not at all.
No, I know there was a time where you could challenge for pass interference, but they got rid of that. But I don't think you can challenge for penalties.
Okay.
I mean, the three experts in the room, you'd think we'd know this, but I don't think you can challenge for penalties. This is where we need a producer who's fact checking us, but
Yeah.
we can't afford one yet. So if there's any sponsors out there that want to sponsor us and give us money or freebies and stuff like that, we're available. Just hit us up.
This is where you're gonna have to start editing so you can edit out when I say something stupid like that.
Well, if I was editing out all the stupid things, I would never be
That's
on
got to hang
camera.
out there. We
It would
we're
just
all
be
going
the
to say
two.
stupid stuff, and it needs to stay out there.
It would just be the two of you with me just sitting there with the blank look on my face. So we can't edit out all the stupid stuff. We've already discussed that.
Most penalties cannot be challenged.
Define most. What are you reading?
Google AI. So it must be real.
Yeah, because Google and AI would never lie on their own and certainly
Never.
not together.
They would never ever send me down the wrong road.
It was on the internet. It must be true.
Exactly. And if you found it on Google, it's even truer. All right. Well, so Mike, do you think it'll have any effect on the game at all? Do you think it will really change anything, or is this just a kind of a hit and miss type of thing?
I don't think it's going to have a big impact.
Okay. Then we won't talk anymore about it.
Okay.
So the last, I guess, this isn't so much a rule change, but they're going to start using Sony's Hawkeye technology to monitor first downs. And so this is, they're still going to have the chain gangs for this season as a backup to the laser system to check for first downs. And I'm guessing this is going to be like, I know both of you watch a whole lot of professional tennis, that the system that tennis has used for years now on challenges on whether a ball is in and out, they'll, if a player challenges, they go to a digital, basically a digital replay, and they'll show the ball, did it hit the line? Was it in? Was it out? That type of thing, because they got lasers all over the court, on the lines to monitor these things. And so the NFL is going to do this now where it's, and I don't know exactly how it plays out. Well, I guess we'll find out a lot in preseason of if you get the first down, is it a referee get, obviously this is on close calls. Does the referee get a little buzz thing and a little voice in his earpiece that says that's a first down and we move on? Or does it say you're short, and does it tell you how short they are? I don't know how it's going to work, but that's the premise behind it. Is it's I guess digital. We're using lasers. I don't know if that's two different things, but I don't know if this will even speed up the game. But I guess it's supposed to take away the. I mean, didn't Washington deal with this in one game last year, where we had a fourth down that? No, it wasn't Washington. What was it? The Buffalo playoff game, Buffalo Kansas City game, where the Buffalo supposedly got a first down, but they didn't call it a first down because the league conspires to make sure that Kansas City and Taylor Swift are in the Super Bowl. That this is supposed to eliminate things like that. So, I mean, if that's the case, if it's supposed to eliminate close calls and judgment, I'm all for it. But I like the human element of having referees call the game. So, I don't know, Joe. What do you think? You like a Hawkeye system calling your first downs for you?
I thought they used it during preseason last year as to test it out, and it ended up taking longer to make sure things worked right. So again, I'm going to reiterate the point: as long as it's fast, that's critical. We don't need to have 5-minute breaks where it's like, oh, did he get the first down? Oh, did the ball make it that? We don't need that. But yeah, it would be nice. I don't see why we wouldn't have the technology to be able to do this, to know where the ball is and when it gets, when it makes forward progress and where it makes it. So I just hope it works. That's all.
No, that's fair. That's all we want things to do is work, right? I mean, that's not too much to ask.
I think the biggest problem right now that the NFL is facing with any of these rules is because they've allowed all this gambling on the NFL, that every little thing can be bet on, and therefore it has major influence on the game itself, whereas the outcome of the game doesn't change that much, and that doesn't matter. But the
Right.
little things like the first downs or how many yards someone gets or this or that, or these prop bets and things like that, I think that's going to mess the game up more.
Well, that is a totally separate topic that we we will definitely revisit that, because I have a lot of opinions about that as well. But
I just think the rules that they're going over, influence that a lot.
oh yeah,
So-
I'm not arguing that at all. I'm just like,
Yeah.
I think that's we could do probably 2 or 3 shows. I could do 2 or 3 shows myself on that, just going back and forth with you guys just nodding along or falling asleep. But Mike,
We'll take those weeks off. We'll just let you do it.
Mike, what do you
I'll be
think?
on vacation.
So my understanding is it's replacing the chain gangs, right? And it's replacing the measurement system, but it's not replacing where the actual problem comes in, and that's the ref spotting the ball, where they place the ball. So I don't know that this really makes a difference. It's still, I mean, the ref's still going to be the one deciding where to place the ball. The measurement part, okay, so you're taking less time, you're not walking people out on the field, whatever.
Right.
Okay, cool. It's honestly should have been done a long time ago. The technology's there.
But the ball placement is a reviewable play, so that can always be changed. I mean, we've seen that a million times. Where do they think the ball is? And when you have a big scrum, it's hard to tell. When did the whistle blow? When did forward progress stop?
Right.
Was the player, were they still pushing? So that type of thing. So that, I think that's always going to be an issue until they do something where they put some sort of transistor in the football that says, here you go. It crossed that imaginary digital line. And that ought to, then you have a first down or a touchdown. They've talked about doing that for the touchdowns for a long time.
I think there is something in the ball now, though. I think there's some type of sensor in the ball.
Oh, you think?
I think so.
Oh, I hadn't heard anything about that. I mean, it'd be interesting. I would love for something like that to happen. That's the only way to really make it work. Because then there's, but then is the ball held this way or is it held this way? And, where's the point of the ball? All that stuff. Because remember, like for the end zone, you just have to break the plane. You don't have to, so is that the tip of the football breaks the plane, that's a touchdown.
There are RFID chips in the footballs.
Okay. So I guess it'll be interesting to see
the football's a weird
it's played.
shape. So
What's that, Joe?
I'm sorry. I was saying the football's a weird shape. So it's not like you can, if it's a soccer ball that's perfectly round, where it is. But
Right.
the football
Where's
being
the
oblong
chip
makes
in
it a
the
lot harder.
ball? Where's the chip in the ball? Is it at the back point? Is it one end or the other? And if you're holding the ball wrong, do you lose the width of the ball? Or I don't know.
But that may be why it's not used right now for things like touchdowns, first down placement, things like that, because it's not precise enough.
Okay.
I'm just totally guessing.
Yeah. No. I'm with you. All right.
It's been in there since 2017. The RFID chip.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
No clue. So two potential rule changes were tabled and pushed to their May meeting. So they're going to have another league meeting in May, and those two specific rules were the tush push and the playoff seeding. Now we talked about the tush push last week and how we all felt about that, and what really came down to was just stop the play. If you just don't complain about it, just stop it. But I think we were also all in agreement that we needed to get rid of pushing offensive players. I know I'm in favor of getting rid of that. If the defense can't push players, then the offense shouldn't be able to push players.
Right. But
the defense is not allowed to, right?
Right.
So it's not like the defense could stack 4 guys in the box right against, opposite the quarterback and push back. So, like, absolutely, they shouldn't be allowed to do that. They have a massive advantage when there's 5, 6 players pushing in a 3-foot wide area, and you can only have 2 on the defense.
And then, of course, the other thing that we talked about that we agreed on was that they should just enforce the rules as they're already drawn up.
Well, that would be nice, right?
Right. So I don't know what'll happen. The interesting thing about this was I read that 16 teams voted yes to ban the tush push. And that 16 teams said don't ban it. When Adam Peters and Dan Quinn were asked about it multiple times, they were just like, we just want to stop the play. They were holding their cards close to the vest about whether or not they voted to ban it or not ban it, because they apparently didn't want to give Philly fans any ammo. Because if Washington votes to ban it, then Philly fans go wild about, you bunch of babies can't even stop the play. So I just thought that was interesting that it was kind of a no comment from those guys about it, rather than saying what we said, which was stop the play. So I guess Dan Quinn and Adam Peters are taking their cues from us. At least in regards to the tush push. I guess we'll have to do a show on the draft before the draft, so they know who to draft. Get their tips from us.
I'm sure they're looking for our insights on that. Yeah. Totally.
No. What better 3 people to get insight about the NFL draft than the 3 of us?
And they're definitely watching this podcast by now. So yeah.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. Yeah, they're all about it. Anybody who's anybody in the front office is watching this. I'm certain of it. I'm just waiting for the call for my on-field press passes for when Washington plays the Chargers out here. That's so I can get on the field and report from the field.
Don't hold your breath. That's all I'm saying.
So that's all I had written down for the agenda for this week, I guess, or outline, or whatever you want to call it. Like I said, there's not a whole lot of signings going on. I guess everyone's ramping up for the draft, which is in a couple of weeks. And, we're, as I've mentioned multiple times, we're not going to have mock drafts. We may mock the draft, but we're not going to have mock drafts. I love seeing, I saw one guy I follow on Twitter. He did a live broadcast of his 7-round mock draft. And
for every team?
I don't know if it was for every team or just for Washington.
Okay.
But it's when I see things
better,
like that, I realize how much of a life I do actually have.
Yeah, but you'd have to do it for every team to know who's available for you can't really do it for just one team. It's not real. So yeah, I don't have time for that.
But I mean, at some point we will talk about the draft in one way, shape, or form.
We held a private workout for a player the other day.
We held a couple of those.
Yeah, one of them's a kicker.
I was just gonna say, there's an offensive lineman that they did as well. So, no, I know the team has there's the top 30 interviews that they have where I think you're allowed to bring in 30 players for interviews. That you can kind of wine and dine, as it were. But of course, it doesn't matter. It's not like a free agent that you're trying to sign, but it's to get to know some of these players a little bit more in a setting outside of the combine.
Take them to, God forbid you take them to Top Golf and bring them all together like last year and make a big stink over it. Right, exactly. Or you find some restaurant or something, you rent it out, and it's you can do it as a group thing or one-on-one. I suppose it doesn't really matter, but. Or you can just order a bunch of Domino's or something and have everybody over for pizza, and it'll be a great time.
Yeah,
but I don't think there's anything else really to talk about. Like I said, we'll focus on the draft. We get a little bit closer. and then there will be some, I'm sure, more free agent signings after the draft as teams look to cut some players that they drafted replacements for. And but that's in weeks to come, so we're not really worried about that. But you guys got anything else you would like to add in regards to anything we've talked about already? We talked about, again, the offensive line a little bit, Christmas Day lineup, and the rule changes, or anything that I missed that you wanted to talk about.
Well, I'll say the only thing that I find interesting is the two issues that the owners tabled are the ones that the three of us have spent the most time talking about too. So
Yeah.
it's not surprising to me, but I just found it kind of interesting that those two probably do warrant the most discussion. So I just found that interesting.
Well, because I think they're probably the most sensitive of them. I think the others, I don't know what the votes were on the other rule changes, but I think that these two are obviously the tush push 16-16 vote shows the league is split. Of course, it might have been 15 teams in the NFC and one random team in the AFC that voted yes to ban it, with the one team in the NFC that voted no, being Philly, obviously, and the AFC team said, well, we don't really care because we don't play the NFC teams all that much. It may not care, but you're right, Mike. That is an interesting thing that we talk about two things very in depth, and those are the things that were tabled. And maybe they need to do more research. Maybe they need to go back and watch what we talked about to get more information.
Probably.
To listen to the experts.
Correct. Yeah, that's what they're doing.
Yeah, I think so. That's what I'm going to tell myself. That's how I'll sleep better tonight.
Okay.
Anything else, Joe? You got anything?
I saw that I'm trying to convince Mike he needs a new jersey, and I saw that Luke McCaffrey is now changing his number to 11 from 12. That's it. That's all I got. How pathetic is that right now?
That's the big news.
That's the big news right there.
Well, okay. So let me ask you that. You brought that up because Joe, I know you got a jersey recently when you got Terry McLaurin's jersey. What was that, last year? Or
Actually, I got it the beginning of this season.
Beginning of this last season.
Yep.
And what do you got on? You got a Jaden Daniels jersey?
I'm wearing a Jaden Daniels today. This was a Christmas present.
Okay.
So I got two jerseys this year. I went the last time I bought a jersey before these two were RG3 jerseys. I bought one. You bought me one, actually. And I didn't want to support the team for a while there.
Right.
And once new ownership, I was like, okay, I'm ready to support the team, and I'll buy a couple new things, and that's where I'm at.
So is there any player on the team now that you would, cost aside, that you would want their jersey?
I like Frankie Louvu. He's been a hell of a lot of fun to watch.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't normally pick them based on their number. I pick them,
You pick based on the player or the number?
The player.
Okay. What about you, Mike?
Yeah, nobody right now, really.
Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't. There's no one I would want one because I don't like the uniforms. But that's if you give me go give me one of the older uniforms, then I wouldn't mind a Terry jersey. But other than that, I'm not sure who else on there I would want. I tend to get jerseys of players that I think will be on the team. Like, the first jersey I ever bought was an Art Monk jersey. Yeah, I bought some RG3 jerseys, but quite honestly, I bought them because they were on sale. I think I paid $5 a piece for them.
And then you immediately shipped them off.
and then I shipped a couple out. I certainly did, because I wanted people to share. So I don't know. I would probably look at old school jerseys, and get like a Darryl Green. I wouldn't mind a Riggins jersey, or even something like a Charlie Taylor or Larry Brown, like those guys that, you know, from when I first started watching the team. I think that's more what I would want if I was to get a new jersey now. I'd want an old school jersey just because it's the old uniforms and the players I grew up watching, as opposed to I don't have as much attachment to individual players now. So
Free
All right.
agency ruins that.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
part of it.
I mean, it's so hard. Like these guys are only playing on teams for 2 or 3 years sometimes, and it's like, you know, these shirts are $170 or something, and
Or more if you get the real ones. They're a little bit more expensive. Like what did I buy? I bought a Champ Bailey jersey all those years ago and spent a pretty penny on it, and I think it was the following year he was traded. So
yeah,
uh,
what a piss off.
but now that's the jersey I have that has all my autographs on it. I should probably break that out. I could probably wear it every once in a while. But all right. Anything else?
Nope.
Nope.
Nothing. Okay. Well, we appreciate everyone tuning in. Don't forget to like it. Leave a comment. Someone was nice enough to leave a comment. I don't know if you guys saw this, but left a comment saying these guys turned gray waiting for Washington to have a winning season again or something like that. It's pretty funny. So leave a comment for us. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like. You can make fun of us all you want. You can't make any more fun of us than we do of each other already. So don't worry about that. Hit like, hit subscribe, and we'll see you next week. Thanks so much for watching.
Okay. See ya.